Welcome to the last video of the Code With Me videos for Chapter 9. In this video, we'll be using a different file than the previous ones, so make sure to go into the Chapter 9 student data files and select the Usability folder. Inside that, we have two files, Application and Process Form. So go ahead and open up the Application file in Chrome, and you'll see that we have something very similar to what we just created. You'll also notice that we have a summary and details item down here. Hey, look at that. That's because we created it before. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to group the different items using a field set because we're dealing with usability and functionality. So inside, either drag the file to brackets or open it up in brackets. Application right here. Good, okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to group the different items including first and last name, email, password, and phone fields. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to insert a field set right after line 12. Line 12, the form here, field set. Click to the right of the phone number field and close a field set. Now a field set by itself, all it does is wrap the grouping inside of a nice kind of grayish box. We can modify this later in CSS, but for now it's perfectly fine for what we need. But unfortunately, field set by itself is not a good identifier by itself. We're also going to be separating the other items as well to make sure that whoever is filling out this form knows what different grouped areas are there. So let's wrap the next area. Let's see, click to the select lines 14 through 17. We did that, 14 to 27, sorry. Next two fields, URL and file, can go in their own field sets. Field set. Tab this over because we're good developers. And then next we have 31, 35, yep. Okay, so that's all the field sets that we have. So in this case we have a field set around the personal information, and then a field set around the online portfolio and resume. Now again, field sets by themselves don't do much other than just visually separate a group. What you need to have is what's called a legend. And the legend will give a nice little key identifier to the field set, making it easier to understand and view versus just a box by itself. This is just like the caption in a table, but keep in mind, just like the caption in a table, this must be the first child inside the field set. So the first field, or the first legend that we're going to add is one down here. Legend for R, ampersand, E, acute, SUM, ampersand, E, acute, and close legend, not legends. Legend. We save, we refresh, and now you can see the word resume with the proper accent items is located up in the field set bar, but it gives a nice identifier to the field set contents. Let's see. Okay. We're also going to add a legend up here. Account information, because I forgot that. Save, refresh. There we go. Okay. So next, we're going to create the third field set down here. Field set, legend, availability. Let's see, click to the right of night. Close the field set. There we go. and tab all this stuff over because, again, we're good developers. Tab that over. Tab that over. We match up. We match up. Good. Okay. Next is field set, legend, express, legend. Got everything here. And everything to 109, in this case 110. Tab it over, field set, double checking. Good, okay. Get all this, tab it over, save, refresh, checking, availability, experience. Was availability supposed to have a, no it wasn't. So I need to remove that. Availability, take away the colon. Okay, lastly, field set, legend, impress us. Okay, and if your tabs aren't the same as mine, that is perfectly okay. All right. Submit buttons are generally not contained inside of a field set, which is perfectly okay, because otherwise it would seem kind of weird to have something selectable. And we don't have the reset button here, that's perfectly fine. So now the form is less cluttered and it's easier to use. The fields within each field set are still cramped, but we'll get to that once we get to CSS. And the field sets themselves are too close to each other, but again, we'll fix that with CSS as well. Okay. 930, we're going to add autofocus to the first name. So right here, whenever someone comes to this page, the first name field should automatically be selected so that they can start typing in instead of having to come over, find, and click on it. So inside the code, we're going to find the first name. Inside the input type, we're going to add the autofocus Boolean attribute. You can say autofocus equals true, or you're going to say autofocus. Both say the exact same thing. Because it's there, it means it's true. So once we save and refresh, now you can see that first name has automatically been selected, so we can say John or whatever our name is. We refresh, it goes back there. If we choose another field, we refresh, it goes back there. Okay, next we're going to add a placeholder. In this case, it's going to go in the URL right here, because we want to tell people what the accepted answer will be for this. Placeholder attribute, http:// because again the protocol is important, example.com. Now I want to pay close attention to this because a placeholder by itself automatically fills in the box with something nice and gray, http:// example.com. Which means once we click on it and we start typing something, the placeholder goes away. The placeholder does not get submitted with the form. So no matter what I type in, that will be submitted as long as it's valid. But the placeholder does not. If you use value instead, value pre-fills in the box, which means that example.com is here and I have to delete it to type in something else, such as google.com. So a placeholder automatically fills it in without filling it in real. So as you can see, example.com is nice and gray versus being pre-filled in. So now I can fill in my own thing with mycoolsite.com and I have to worry about deleting the previous information. Alright, the last activity is actually going to make things required. So in this case, we're going to add something to the very top, should be inside the p tags. Fields marked with an asterisk are required. Now hopefully you know what this means. We're adding the required attributes and we're also telling people that hey, things with asterisks are visually required. We're going to still have a backup, so that if something isn't filled out, we're not going to say, hey, this isn't filled out, so we can't process your form. And by having the required attribute, the form doesn't submit if the required field is not filled out or selected. So in this case, we're going to say first name with the autofocus, required. You could also say required equals true as well. Again, the same thing. Visually, we're going to add an asterisk, so that way our user knows that this field is required. Hey, asterisk, and the form is filled in. If I fill out everything else except that field, and I try to submit, it's going to say, hey, please fill out this field because it's required. Most modern browsers will do that. Some older browsers may not. Okay, we're also going to add the required attribute to the remaining fields in the account information section. So go inside the input types and add the required attribute. IRED. REQUIRED. There we go. So if I save and refresh, and I fill out the first one, but I don't fill out the rest, it's going to say, hey, please fill out this field. Okay, I'm going to fill out that field. Smith. Save. Email, fill out this field. John. It's not an email address. @smith.com. Create a password. My password. Phone number. 828-555-1234. Now it submits. Good. So all that information was required because we used the required attribute. But again, to the client, this is not easily understood. So we add things like asterisks to make the fields visually capable of showing them that they are required. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to add the required attribute to the date field, line 43. Line 43, start date. So the date input type. Required, and because we're good developers, date, or the asterisk. Required attribute to the morning radio button. Let's see, morning. Required, which, whoops, that's a label. Which doesn't make much sense if you're giving them the option, but one is required. I don't know, I didn't write the book. Okay, the radio buttons, the yes-no radio buttons, don't need a required attribute because one's already pre-selected. If you didn't have one pre-selected, that means that the form could be submitted with neither of them selected, in which case the required could be used. And you really can't uncheck a radio button. So in this case, by having one pre-selected, it will automatically be sent as one is selected. So we don't need to use that. Okay, last but not least, we are adding the required to the text area down here. Text area. Required. And asterisk. Okay, save, refresh. There we go. Okay, so John Smith. John@smith.com. Password. Phone 828-555-1234. Date I can work. 2 weeks from now. Please select one of these options. Afternoon. Please fill out this field. Let's see. Because I am awesome. Apply for internship. Hey, that let me do it. So why did that let me select the morning for it? Go away. Select morning for required, even though I selected afternoon. That's because the name, the radio button group, has a required attribute, which means that I can select one inside the radio group and it will still work. If I said required in all of them, in that case, it really wouldn't work out because it doesn't know what to do. But in this case, by saying one required with the work shift group, that means that all of these are valid. In which case, the preferred to work is the correct item to have with the asterisk. Okay, so that is everything for Chapter 9. If you have any questions about anything covered in this video or anything in the previous videos, please send me an email or hit me up on Twitter and I'll get back to you with the best possible answer. If you haven't already started your Chapter 9 assignment, please do so, as chances are you will have questions regarding these items.